Happy Thursday morning. I think it's Thursday.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all joining us for the CLAW meeting, which is the Climate Action Work Group for RCLLG. And why don't we go around and see some new faces with a quick round of introductions. Share name, organization, and since it feels like spring, what's one spring tradition you have? And so I'm John Doan. I am the Vice President for RCLG, also a member of the Shoreview City Council, and helping to lead the CLAW with Robin from Roseville. And my favorite thing about spring, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I go to a Twins game once a year. And so I am really looking forward to the Twins this year.
Get your one game in, huh?
Yeah. Jan, I'll pass it on to you.
Okay. Jan Jensen. I'm also past president of the RCLLG that John just referred to. And I'm a council member in St. Anthony in my 16th year on the council, and about my 8th or 9th year on the board of directors with RCLLG. With that, I'll pass it on to whoever wants to go next.
Hello, Sean Gaszewski here. Went to Whitebear Mariner High School, and one of my favorite traditions is to do skiing at the end of the season in Worth Park, where they have man-made snow. There's still about a foot of snow up there. It's a bit icy, but it's fun. Yep.
And why don't we popcorn it to Michaela?
Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you guys again. I'm Michaela Campbell. I'm Commissioner McGuire's aide, and my favorite spring tradition, I think, is heading over to Lebanon Hills Park in Eagan and walking in the trails with my dog and my mom. That's probably my favorite thing in the spring because I can't do it in the winter.
It's a beautiful park.
Marcy?
Good morning. My name is Marcy Wynett. I am the Ramsey County appointee to the Rice Creek Watershed Board, and thank you, John, for your invitation. I guess mine is watching the ice get out of the creeks and lakes within the watershed. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you. David?
Yeah, thanks. I am also with Rice Creek Watershed District. My name is David Petrie. I am their project manager, and thanks for having us. In spring, I suppose, like Michaela, getting out on the trails with dogs, definitely a highlight.
Fantastic. Jerry?
Good morning, Jerry Moyna. I'm a city council member in Vadnais Heights, and I guess my favorite part of spring is knowing that summer is coming, and I spend a lot of time going to the cabin during the summer on weekends. So always excited to get the cabin open.
And Gregory?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Gregory Goodwine. I work for Ramsey County on the climate and health team, so really excited to join this meeting today and kind of meet some new folks and get a little bit more involved. Recently hired to the county, so pretty new in my role. But one of my favorite parts about spring, my birthday's in March, so really looking forward to that. But also just generally really looking forward to walking outside, being outside after a long winter, just kind of, staying inside. So nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
And we'll stick with the Ramsey County theme and go to Commissioner McGuire. Mary Jo.
Yeah, thanks, John. And I'm getting my camera going here. I got a new computer set up at home, so I'll get that going while I'm on my phone now. But it's great to see and hear all our new members, Marcy and our watershed group, and Greg. Welcome to Ramsey County, and everyone else. Mary Jo McGuire, Ramsey County Commissioner, and longtime member of RCLLG, and just grateful to all the people who are working on the CLAW. So I try to get to as many meetings as I can. So just grateful for all of you. And my favorite spring thing is to get outside and bike and walk. And I love to do walking meetings on my phone outside. So I'm glad that when spring is here so I can do meetings on my phone outside.
Awesome.
And I don't know who else is there. Let's see, I
I'll
can't.
pass it on to Noel.
Thanks. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Noel Holscheiser, Programs and Communications Coordinator with Fusion Learning Partners and Fusion Learning Partners staff's RCLLG, or the Ramsey County League of Local Governments. And I am excited to get my bike out, which yesterday I tried and all the tires were flat and I didn't have a bike pump. So I guess I won't be biking yet, but soon. I ordered a bike pump. I'll hand it to Mary.
That's awesome. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mary Wynn. I serve as the CEO of Fusion Learning Partners, working with Noel to support Ramsey County League of Local Governments. And specifically, I am here because of the grant that RCLLG received from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, which I'll be talking about in a second. Favorite spring thing, I am a huge gardener. I have lots of flower gardens and vegetable gardens, and so this time of year, I get really excited about starting to plan everything. You know, in about a month or so from now, then I curse myself, like, why do I have all these gardens? Because it's a lot of work, but no, I do love it. And welcome, Gregory, and happy birthday.
Great. Well, Mary, since you're up, why don't we have you jump right into the agenda and start with the Manufactured Homes MPCA grant that we have.
Sure, absolutely. So because there are some new faces here, it is always important, I think, to remind ourselves what this grant is, what it's for. So it is a planning and capacity building grant that was received again from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, ultimately to build capacity. So two purposes of the grant: to help build capacity of the manufactured home park residents to access and utilize climate-related funding resources. So that's one part of the purpose of the grant. The second part of the purpose of the grant is to build the capacity of RCLLG itself to continue to plan, coordinate, and implement these collaborative cross-sector collective actions around climate. So two purposes. The goals around the project include, so these are connected to the first purpose, which is, again, to build the capacity of the residents. So one of the goals is to create and document a coordinated and collaborative plan for doing community outreach and engagement. So we have some work going on around that. As part of that work, building some community outreach and engagement, we obviously want to get buy-in from the residents to apply for and utilize current and future funding and programs, right? So to get more participation in those programs that currently exist, as well as those that might be coming in the future. Along with that, we want to develop some informational tools, templates, resources, again, so that they can more effectively take advantage of those resources. And then as part of the outreach and education or engagement activity, we want to also be able to provide residents with free and existing weatherization and energy efficient resources, partly to help, entice them to come to the event, but also we want to leave them obviously with something tangible and a nice takeaway. So those are the goals. And again, another goal is around this group, or this, the Climate Action Work Group, again, to build its capacity to do this work effectively long-term. There's two deliverables out of this grant that we need to make sure that we are providing. One, again, is related to the first purpose, which is, again, all around the manufactured home park residents themselves. And that is to create those informational tools, templates, and resources. So in Spanish and in Hmong, so that we can, again, support those communities. And then the second deliverable, which we'll be talking about, starting to talk about in this meeting today, is to create a 3-year plan. So we have this sort of short-term simple plan as part of the project, which, by the way, the grant ends at the end of June. So this was a very short term, very targeted, and I would say, kind of a first step grant opportunity. What we want to come out of this is a longer term plan. So how do we continue this work with the 15 manufactured home parks in these 8 Ramsey County communities? How do we continue the work long term so that, again, we're building access and helping these residents better utilize the programs and services that are available. So I'll stop there. That is an overview of the grant. Is there any questions or comments?
Mary, can you share who else is helping to support us
Oh,
with the
yes.
grant? So
Yeah,
we know
thanks.
who's
Yeah.
all involved.
Thanks, John. Good question. So the grant has 3 primary organizations that are listed in the grant to do this work. Fusion Learning Partners, obviously, to where the grant, I guess, the grant administrators. So we do all the reporting. We also are coordinating a lot of the meetings, planning meetings and the work, providing logistical support and resource support for the education and engagement event that will be happening here before the end of June. And then to help support that event and the work that goes into that event, we have Sean's group with Resilient Cities and Communities, and then a organization that Resilient Cities and Communities has worked with for a number of years, which is La Asamblea. And they are a group that has been working with the Spanish-speaking residents within the manufactured home parks for a long time. And so they have a lot of great connections and resources to bring to the table. So those are the 3 organizations that are specifically listed in the grant and that receive money from the grant to do this work. Obviously, we're trying to bring in and partner with other organizations that have already been doing work in this space, already have resources. We don't want to, duplicate the wheel whenever if we don't have to. So we're trying to work in partnership with a few other organizations such as CERTS and CAP-RW, the group with XL Energy. So there are a number of other ones we're trying to pull in and again, like I said, see what kind of resources they can bring to the table that they already have.
I just wanted to share that Slipstream is also tremendously fantastic. They spoke with us before. So they basically have been doing this for 20 years, know pretty much everything. And one of the questions I had for you, John, is with a key either resource or barrier for actually reaching residents of these parks is the willingness of the manufactured home park manager to work with the city and or any momentum that cities have with getting to know residents in these parks and maybe finding volunteers. And I'm curious, like, what would be our best next steps for trying to get, more reconnaissance from, Maplewood, Little Canada, New Brighton, Red Hills, Vadnais Heights, Mounds View, and Roseville, of like, how is it going with them so far in the relationship with the manufactured home managers? And do they have any momentum with getting to know any key volunteers who are residents? And I think that would be a really fun thing to figure out a bit.
Yep. So I think that part of the outreach for this grant with capacity building, maybe, and I'll ask Mary if this is within the scope of what we are currently working on, which is identifying the key staff person within each city and and I think we did this through a survey of reaching out to them and asking what the relationship is, or if there is a relationship between the city and their manufactured home manager or community. So I think we have some of that information already. I don't know if I don't think we have it for all 8 cities. So perhaps we need to just kind of round up the remaining information to make sure that we have a good contact in each of the cities. And we know who the manufactured home park manager is and what that relationship is. I'll pause here and see if Noel or Mary have anything to add.
Yeah, I have done research on who the contacts are at the manufactured homes, the management, and between the work that Pablo has done with La Asamblea, he has good relationships there too, and he has contact information.
So yeah, I think the challenge though is like Pablo has only really done door knocking in the manufactured home parks in Little Canada. So we do need a bit more information from the city staff contacts. For example, I think New Brighton, no, Mounds View is kind of struggling because their manufactured home park manager guy is not really one to deal with them very much. And Arden Hills has had similar struggles. So I'm not sure about maybe Gladys and I should call the lead staff from each of the cities to try to interview them to figure out how easy it is for them to work with these manufactured home park managers and if they actually do they send mailings to these places? Um do they have any communication methods that they currently are using to reach these residents? So I'm not sure that does that sound like a next step for me and for Gladys and I is to just call the lead staff person from each city to get a bit more detail.
Sean, why don't we have that conversation offline, and then we can coordinate, because I think that has been work there and we just don't want to duplicate efforts.
Okay,
Correct.
great.
Yeah, so that probably leads into, John, should I just go into then where we're at with this
Please.
outreach education event planning? So we had a couple of action planning meetings to create a plan for how we would do this event. So really it's kind of an event plan. And it was a nice group of people who came together for a couple of meetings, to really just collaborate on this plan. What do we want to what does success look like, right? We started from the end and looked at what if we were successful with this event, what would it look like, sound like, etc. We talked through what are some of the opportunities, what are some of the threats, what are some of the unintended consequences that might come out of this, and what are some of the consequences that might come up that are both good and, as I said, sort of unintended. And then really distilled all that information and said, okay, with all of that, what are we really willing to commit to? What can we commit to? The first thing that was on that list was really just to try and keep this pretty simple because we don't have a lot of time and we still have a lot of ground to lay. And even though there's been work done with many other groups, there's still, I think within the manufactured home parks, obviously there's new residents and there's a lot of other issues going on right now in terms of fear and distrust. So there's a lot of, ground that needs to be laid. So let's keep it simple was really the first commitment. And then, use the resources that already exist. We talked about that. So, and then the second meeting, then we, took all of that information and looked at, okay, what are our 3 kind of big buckets of work that need to be done? Who's going to kind of lead the charge on those buckets? How do we coordinate and make sure that, to your point, John, we're not duplicating efforts? And we identified some of the initial actions that needed to happen in a timeline. So now where we're at is the sort of the 3 lead organizations, as I talked about earlier, Fusion and RCC in particular, with La Asamblea, are really going to, start pulling on these threads, right? Just as Sean talked about, what are these next steps? Noel has already done some of them, as you pointed out, in terms of pulling together, starting a resource information around what's going on with the cities, who the contacts are. And, you know, so the three buckets of work, obviously, for this event are outreach and communication, and not just to the residents, by the way, as Sean's pointing out, and others. You know, a big part of these engagement, education, and engagement event is to make sure that we have lots of city representatives there and watershed districts and other units of government, right? We want people to come create these relationships, hear what the issues are in the manufactured home parks, so that, again, we can marry up, you know, the resources that are available and the policymakers who are making decisions to what is actually happening in these communities. So a big part of the outreach. So for those of you who are in a government, expect to have your door knocked on and be called and be asked to come to this event. We really hope you will, as well as bring, you know, your resources to bear. So outreach and education is a big one of the buckets. Obviously logistics, you know, where are we having the event? How do we set it up? What do we need to have there? All of those pieces. And then the resources, again, what resources are we going to have at the event, and showcase and make sure that these residents understand are available. So those are kind of the three bucket areas for the planning. Those are the groups that are pulling it together offline and doing that work. So did anything else anybody want to add, John or Sean or Noel?
I'll just share that I think an aha moment for me through this work thus far is that one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing and hearing is that there's a lack of people to do the work. So contractors who are familiar and are certified to work on manufactured homes. My understanding is that there's some differences in the type of work and in how they do that work on a manufactured home versus a more traditional single family home or apartment or a townhome. And so just want to recognize that. I think that there's a training and workforce issue potentially. And I think having Commissioner McGuire and potentially reaching out to those at Ramsey County who do workforce training, I think is another step in this work.
I think that leads really well, John, into the next agenda item, which is the 3-year plan. Because we're not going to be able to solve the contractor issue in the next couple of months, right, before these events. But we have identified that that is definitely a barrier. And so how do we address that barrier over the course of the next few years? So maybe that leads in, John, to the next.
Well, there was just good news that Pablo was talking with La Asamblea. When I was talking to him, he said that there are some Latino builders that he knows that would be open to exploring getting trained on this. So if we eventually, as part of our plan, created a bit of an action item with Ramsey County Workforce Development and St. Paul College and Sustainable Resources Center to see, well, basically the person who knows exactly why this contractors are not happening is the gal from Slipstream. So she's been dealing with this issue for 20 years. So we basically have to talk to her and figure out what's been the brick walls that they get contractors trained and then they give up because they can't make any money doing it and it's too hard. So it's like anyway, we can have a work group on that. But at least Pablo said he knows some Latino contractors that might be open to getting trained to do this work.
Right.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Yep, we've got it on our radar here to follow up then with Slipstream and Assemblia. Let's shift. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Sorry. So I was just at a meeting yesterday, and I just, as far as contractors, I don't know if it might be worth just reaching out to John O'Phelan. He's with Ramsey County Work Solutions. And so he's been doing a lot of work of connecting, smaller upcoming contractors with, cities to do different work. It might just be worth reaching out to see if he knows of any contractors that do manufacturers homes. So, and
Great.
I can put his contact number into the chat if you'd like.
That would be appreciated. Thank you, Steve. And Steve, while you're on, why don't you introduce yourself? We went through a round and I'll then ask Tina to introduce herself as well.
Sure. Just getting my camera up and running there. I'm Steve Love. I'm the Public Works Director and City Engineer for Maplewood.
Thanks, Steve. And then I'll have Tina introduce herself so everybody knows. Tina, you're up.
Hi, good morning. Tina Munson with the City of Arden Hills. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. So I think that that's a good segue to our 3-year plan. Part of the grant also is to help to develop kind of a strategy for us here of how do we continue to move forward to build capacity and do our collective action work around climate action. So Mary, and I think that this gets into a bit more of an interactive portion for our meeting here. So be prepared to jump in here and help us to kind of think about how we shape this for the next 3 years. Mary, you're up.
Sorry, John, what would you like me to do here?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that this was actually me
Yeah.
on the agenda. So my apologies. I'm leading this part. So
I think we want to just have an initial conversation today. We're certainly not saying in the next 20 minutes we're going to create a 3-year plan, but right. So
that's right. Yep. So what we want to do is start to think about what this should look like for the next 3 years. The CLAW was really born out of the idea that each of the organizations within RCLLG, our school districts, the cities, and the watershed districts as well, and the county are better off working on climate together because a lot of these issues cut across city and school district boundaries. And so knowing that, we said, okay, what are the things that we wanted to work on? And just a quick recap for those who are newer to the conversation. We started with our workshop for climate action and developing a climate action plan for jurisdictions that wanted to have one. We had that workshop last September. It was an initial kickoff. There is follow-up, and that's the next agenda item here, is to talk a bit more about how we want to do that and when. That follow-up for our climate action work that each of the jurisdictions are doing. And then we also said it seemed like a very timely issue is manufactured homes that are in the 8 suburban Ramsey County cities, and how do we help support climate change and climate resilience for residents in our communities who live in manufactured homes. And that we started about this time last year, and we're successful in garnering the grant, and now we're in the process of delivering the grant. So that's where we've been. Now let's think about where do we want to be in 3 years in this work. We want to make sure that RCLG is a convener, but typically, aside from this grant, RCLG itself is not the doer of this work. We as RCLG, our goal is to seed the work, to find the right organizations that are doing the work or want to do that work in the future, and then to help support them through our connections and the resources that we have available to us. So with that in mind, would like to have a conversation and just gonna start thinking about here where the CLAW and you as members of the CLAW think kind of a visioning process here. Where do you see this work in 3 years? If you had to say, what would that be? What would you hope to see? And so I'd like to take the next maybe 5 or so 10 minutes to just do a quick round and think of one thing that you would like or that you think that this would look like in 3 years, the work of the claw. So with that, I'll have folks raise their hands and then we'll just ping or popcorn through so everybody gets a chance. And I will, since I know Jan's always great to start with good ideas. Jan, do you want to kick us off? Oh, you're muted, Jan.
Steve, maybe there's if they could talk a bit both about what they want to see the claw doing and what they want to see happening in their own city, maybe with manufactured homes, because they would be great to hear the intentions. Like, Cincinnati Village already has a fairly new manufactured home park, so maybe they don't have to do much, but other cities might be having more ambitions. Whatever. Mhm.
So I think Sean's ask here is that if you could touch on if there is a manufactured home community in your city to touch on that. But I think that we're trying to think more broadly than just the manufactured home work that we're currently engaged in. So think broader than just that specific initiative that we have right now, because I think we're committed to working on that. But I think we're also wanting to think about what are the other things that are going to engage members of the claw and how, and then we'll talk about the how after that. So Jan, back to you.
Well, I was thinking of just evaluating energy efficiency of all government buildings within each city, which would include the school district as well. The other thing that I think is important that we do is we had some discussion about the lack of contractors that could come and work on mobile homes. I think that needs to be exploited so that people can easily find, or at least create tools that can easily find a contractor that they can call on and get a bid to, do the work on their mobile home. Since we've identified that seems to be a stopgap issue.
Great. Two great ideas. Thank you, Jan. I'm gonna, if there are folks who are ready to go, if you raise your hand, I'll start to call on you. Otherwise, I will continue to popcorn. One of our watershed folks, Marcy, would you like to chime in?
Sure, John, thank you. As you're talking about this, I am thinking that we have the whole watershed map for flood-prone areas, and I would suspect many of these parks are within that area. So that's something we can be helpful, be a partner with when it comes to the flooding, rainfall, etc. As well as we did a climate resiliency workshop about 3 years ago within the watershed, and I think we'll pull up that information and review that and see how that might intersect, because we've done some social justice work also.
Great. Please send that those materials and that learning our way, because we'd love to build on the work that's already done.
Yes.
Okay. Tina, you've got your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. I like Jan's idea of basically creating a baseline of like where cities are today, and that could be, energy efficiency, doing energy audits, could also be creating an EV fleet analysis model that could easily be, distributed for that sort of an assessment. So some of those are pretty executable. One of the things on the manufactured park homes that I can't seem to shake is just this concept of like, yes, we want to be able to retrofit, but should we be going further up the chain to understand if there's grants or funding available to help with from the beginning? Can we help provide additional funding for those homes to have the insulation, have the at least energy, some sort of energy efficiency from the beginning, where I think we'll find maybe it's cheaper. But I just don't know how many, new homes go out versus retrofit. So that's just an idea I've been thinking about, is how do we sort of get it at the core of the issue. on top of doing retrofits.
Great, thank you, Tina. And I've got Gregory's hand up.
Hi. For some more context around my role specifically, I was hired in to help provide capacity within the Ramsey County system internally to focus on climate change, but also externally with our city representatives. I think one point that I can connect in, and this is my first meeting, so I'm still kind of learning a little bit more about the group, but I am coordinating a city coalition meeting based around climate work. And so I think that could be a good like connection point, kind of helping kind of understand that like baseline of where cities are at, and then also try to plug folks into this work and also kind of get some more information around like, a lot of the initiatives happening like manufactured home parks and other things that are happening in this group. So I think that's a good touch point and connection. And then also based on what Marcy was kind of saying related to mapping, we have our climate change vulnerability assessment, which my colleague Nikolai has been working on a lot of maps for, kind of really highlighting the vulnerability throughout Ramsey County as a whole. And so I think that could be a useful resource that we could share in the future once we're still wrapping up the update, so it should be completed shortly. But that's something that we'd be happy to share.
Great, thank you, Gregory. I'm gonna see if others want to chime in here. Looking to Steve or Jerry. Go for it, Jerry.
There we go. I got my mute off. That's a big, I can not check that one off the box. We are continuing our improvement in the parks in Vadnais Heights. Backing up, I'm on the city, newly elected to the city council, and this is my second meeting, so I'm still trying to get my footing on what you guys actually do, but I have a general idea. And we do have a mobile home park down off of 694 and Rice Street, and it's very near to a number of our parks and paths. And we're doing and I'm also the liaison for our Parks Commission. And so I would offer to try to communicate. I mean, it's a great question as far as I bet that there's a lot of folks in our mobile home park that utilize the parks nearby, and perhaps we could utilize them and engage them in trying to improve these parks, which will hopefully have some small impact on the environment. So, and separately, I'm a banker in my day job here, my ears perked up, and I'm a little intrigued on why is it that contractors can't earn money. I heard that they can't make any money working on mobile homes, and I'm not sure. I don't know too many good contractors out there that aren't doing well because they're so busy. I think the issue is finding them to do the work, but I don't know if there's anything more behind that on why they can't earn money, and that one I don't understand. So.
Well, thank you, Jerry. Welcome to the group, and we're definitely trying to get to ground on that ourselves. This is an issue that, with regard to contractors, that seems to be more deeper, that runs deeper than what we may be assuming at the surface. So more work needs to definitely be done to understand what the challenges for the contractor and for that type of work, and maybe the economies of scale or the availability of work for them. So appreciate that. I'm going to see if Mary Jo, if you've got anything to add. And this is, remember, it's broader than just manufactured homes. This is us as the Claw. What do we see ourselves accomplishing in the next 3 years?
Great. Hi, John. I've got a couple different devices going here so I can get my new computer working. But great to see everyone. And I love this conversation. And thanks for everyone for all your work. I'm of course thinking big picture as one would do about coordinating, making sure that what we're doing at the county is really coordinating with everything we're doing. And Greg, I'm glad to hear that we're doing that work at the county. And so I just want to make sure that in the future we're moving forward together, and that we are having these meetings on a continual basis, because I want to make sure that we aren't duplicating our efforts, and that the plans that we're all working on are coordinated. I love that Marcy had a climate action day that the watershed district, I sort of remember that day, and I don't know if I was able to attend, but I thought it was a great idea. And I mean, we should probably have annual meetings like that to just get other people engaged in the issue, because not everyone can give as much time to this. But, so I'm mostly concerned with, ongoing efforts. How do we make sure that there is a structure in place for ongoing work, and that we make sure it's all coordinated? Like the CAP RW should be at these meetings as well. And I know they're invited. And is there someone here from CAP? I don't think, but they're doing a lot of climate work. And so yeah. So that's and my speaker's going crazy here. So yeah.
Great, we're getting you in stereo now, Mary Jo. That's
Oh, I
good.
heard that. So let me
Yeah.
stop.
Jan, you had your hand up.
Yep. I was also thinking, about my building audits, is that if our plan could include links to what companies that can come in and perform audits, whether it's Excel Energy or engineering companies like WSB, whatever, so that it's easy to make a contact and then get some result, and then also maybe develop or find a template or a model that can calculate return on investment, so that people can, weigh out what type of energy efficiency they want to implement. And then they have a way to measure or determine, which one would come first. But if we make this easy and accessible and intuitive to use, we'll get greater participation, I think.
Great. I believe that through the Partners in Energy program that Excel has, that there's work that's done around that too. So let's see if
we in St. Anthony just signed up for that. So I think what I'll do in the meantime is do a deep dive on exactly how that works and how we are going to use it. Maybe there's something there that I could share at the next meeting.
Great. Thank you, Jan.
I just wanted to piggyback that besides Partners Energy, the people who really know how to help local governments get their buildings to be better is CERTS with, with Peter Lindstrom. And so they have all these things like the public buildings energy performance contracts and joint procurement. And so definitely if you met up, if you had a bunch of cities meeting up with Peter Lindstrom, they got a tremendous 10-year momentum on this stuff with CERTS. Mhm.
Great. Thank you for that, Sean. Looking to folks who have not had a chance to chime in yet. Steve or Michaela? Steve, you're up.
Yeah, beyond the manufactured home discussion, I think what you see is a lot of different communities kind of working on climate change in their own little silo. And, to me, when you talk about available resources, both, most cities and the county, probably that's a challenge, right? Is not only resources and staff time, but also in physical resources and in funding. It just seems like there would be an opportunity to kind of create a coalition that works on this all together overall versus everybody doing a little silo thing and maybe not having as much impact as if that was done as a whole for the area.
Yeah, that's a great vision for RCLG and the CLAW, and I think that's one that won us this grant. And so now I think we're trying to take that to the next level and provide more detail as to what are the tangibles within that 3 years that we're looking to work on. So thank you for acknowledging that, Steve. Michaela, you're up.
Yeah, I totally agree with Steve, actually. I think the more hands and minds on this project, the more resources and ideas will be able to come out of it. So I would really encourage just like outreach to different, I guess, like departments, but different, I guess, groups that have just a little bit of information on what this 3-year plan is going to be about. And I would say just outreach to maybe people who, I don't know if you guys do outreach based off like papers or like, I don't know if you guys go out and hand out papers to people. But I was just thinking that I feel like it would be helpful for translations to be on those outreach booklets or papers or whatever you guys use too, because that will help a lot with, especially because a lot of people who are in manufactured homes, they are minorities and they don't necessarily always speak English. So, or English isn't their first language. So it's helpful to have those translations as well.
Mhm. Well, thank you, Michaela. I think, yep, there is a work group that's identified that as a need and an issue that we'll be working on for the event that's coming up. I
John?
think what both Michaela and Steve said, it seems like there's a desire to potentially survey members more broadly than just what we're currently doing around the manufactured homes. And so I think that that's maybe an idea that um, is coming out of this conversation. Mary, you had something you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, and I hope this will make a good segue to the last agenda item, which I know you wanted to do a follow-up on the community climate action plans. But one thing I was thinking, it kind of could be a nice tie-in, right? Both to the long-term work with manufactured home parks, as well as broader for CLAW, is how potentially can each community's climate action plans be leveraged or utilized both in terms of ongoing work with manufactured home parks and then, broader issues around the CLAW. So in other words, can there be in those climate action plans, can there be a standard that each of them, or at least those that have the manufactured home parks within their boundaries, include something about the manufactured home parks in their climate action plans, right? So that we can utilize what's already being done to help form what will be done in the future around manufactured home parks. And then again, broadly beyond that. So in other words, using the climate action plans as another resource or tool to tie all this together. So there you go. There's my segue, John, for you.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate everybody's thoughts and comments. I think that the CLAW has other members that are not in this meeting. For example, Robin Schroeder is co-leading this work with me and co-facilitating it, but she's traveling this week and is not able to join us. And so we've got other folks who are on this as well. I think that maybe using a survey tool, an online survey tool or something like that may be worth considering as we want to develop that 3-year strategy. Just to close out here, I'd like to take the last 5 or so minutes that we have to talk about what we want to see, what would be helpful to each of the communities with regard to the climate action planning work that we're doing. As I mentioned, we had that workshop about September 4th or 5th of last year, and we got together at the Shoreview Community Center. Let me ask by a raise of virtual hands if you were able to attend that workshop last September. I'll raise my hand here. Or you could do physical hands too, but let me. Okay, we've got four folks who attended. So I think a lot of folks, a lot of others have not had that chance to kind of come together. We worked with Abby Phillips at Ramsey County to help organize, and she really facilitated and brought that workshop together. One of my to-dos is to reach back out to Abby to have a conversation with her because we had talked about a follow-up conversation or a follow-up workshop from that. And I'm thinking that maybe if we can do it either at the beginning of summer or at the end of summer, that would be great. So my sense is that we could try to shoot for June, but then I think July and August gets to be a lot of folks are on vacation or out. And so we either do it in early June or maybe early September. And maybe early September might be a good time to just, as a benchmark to what Mary Jo you were saying, is that there's an annual kind of check-in for this work. Or whether we call it a workshop or a conference or a summit or something like that. But let's think about that. How do folks, Jan and I guess Noel, you were there from last year. What do you feel like would be helpful to you all who attended for this year?
I think it'd be good to if we could follow up with that template that Abby created, and um, it was very complex. And I think if there can be a little bit more of a summarized version of it, but
Mhm.
the categories were still important, and
Mhm.
it'd be good to go through those categories and then have that sent out so that people in their different cities can have some time to just review the categories. What actions did we take against any of these categories? And maybe if it's going to be like a summit, then people could share, what they're done. Now, we're not going to solve world hunger here, but there are going to be steps that people have taken, and then these steps can be shared, and then maybe one person can hear something from somebody else, and then take that back to their city, and as an action that maybe they hadn't quite thought of that type of action. To me,
Mhm.
I think that would be useful for me.
Great. Appreciate that, Jan. Noel, from a logistics standpoint, do you have a sense that timing wise, would June or September be a better time to do this?
I would say push it back a little, September.
Mhm.
We have the manufactured home park thing in
Yeah.
June, so.
Yeah, I would
That's true. Yep.
concur with that as well, because people are getting pumped up for the June, July, August, summertime
Yeah.
activities. And, this might be this is going to be more than a 1 hour event. So it's going to be a few hours, and you want people to feel refreshed to want to commit to those hours.
Yeah,
It,
people are
it's just
in,
to have us, a few hours blocked out, whether we take the full time, we may not, but uh, I feel that, we had about what, 30 people there, 25 to 30
Yep.
people. So when you get, if we can replicate that again, and maybe even larger, just to get through people's thoughts takes time. And then
Mhm.
especially if you have an agenda to follow through, here's the question. What do you think? Here's the question. What's your input, or what's your thoughts? Uh, I would think that September worked out well. It seemed like,
Right.
last fall, I thought.
Okay.
And people
good
stayed
attendance.
to the end.
Well, I think that's super helpful for us to start to at least plan for. It sounds like we're landing on September, particularly also that the manufactured homes outreach event is going to be in June. And then I'll make a quick plug that tomorrow, if you haven't signed up yet, RCLG is hosting our EV fleet event with Great Plains Institute. So looking at government fleets in particular and how folks are, or what the best practices are for transitioning government fleets vehicles to an from a what do they call those? The combustion engine, the ICE vehicles, internal combustion engines, from ICE to EV. And so the link for the event to register is in the chat. Thank you, Noel, for putting that in there. And we're really looking forward to having a great conversation tomorrow morning on that issue that Tina brought up about EV fleets and assessments and how that can happen. With that, I'm going to ask if there are any folks who have any announcements or last words to share with the CLAW. If you do, this is the time to do it. Mary, do you have anything else you want us to close out with?
No, I don't think so. I think I heard, a good action step in between maybe now and the next meeting is the survey, John. And that's certainly something that Noelle and I can work with you on to design and get out so that we have some more information to bring back to the next meeting so we can continue to talk about, 3-year plan, both for manufactured home parks. That is one of the, again, deliverables we do need to deliver for the grant, but also beyond, right? Beyond manufactured home park and climate in general, climate action in general.
Great. Well, thank you. I think, Marcy, just while we have 1 minute left here, I think it'd be great for the next CLAW meeting if maybe we could start featuring the work that the watershed districts are doing with regard to this. We had a session, kind of one of our learning sessions last year, where we had 4 of the watersheds present what they were doing. It was about in May last year, if I remember right. And that was pretty high level. Maybe Marcy, for the next CLAW meeting, if we can have maybe a deeper dive into a conversation about the watershed districts and the work that you're doing and the work that you hope to be doing moving forward, and how that relates to the collective work that we're doing with CLAW. Would that be?
I think we can make that happen, John. I also see that Ramsey Washington Watershed it's doing a resiliency effort also. So let's see if we can coordinate among, I think there are 4 watersheds that are within Ramsey County. So, and Mary Jo will keep you posted on that one too, because we certainly want to report to the county board the efforts of the watershed district also. So thanks for that invitation. I will be in touch with David. And I guess the question is, do we send documents to Mary, Noelle?
Noelle is the best
Noelle,
repository for this. She's very organized.
Okay, I like organized. So thank you. Okay, we'll be in touch with her doing that. So thanks for that invitation.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your engagement in this work, and look forward to seeing many of you tomorrow at the EV Fleet learning session, and look forward to our next conversation in April, featuring the watershed districts. Thanks all. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.